Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of SUGTalks. I'm Craig Dale, your host, and together with our special guests, we'll take a deep dive into the topics, challenges, and opportunities facing SAP users today. Please make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our episodes. I'm delighted today to be joined by Donna Cunningham, Sales Director of the NEC Group Conventions, which portfolio also includes the ICC in Birmingham, where we host our annual conference, You Guys Should Connect, and other meetings throughout the year. And Joe Kelly, Director of Events Operations at 360 Insights, who are also our conference management partner. So welcome to you both. We're going to discuss today the return to face-to-face events. And before we get into that, me and my wife have just been organising our holiday for this year, which, similar to last year, is a holiday in the UK. We're going to take a road trip down to the south coast, different places in Dorset, with a little stop on the Isle of Wight. And my question to you, probably a bit selfish as well, looking at future destinations, what is your favourite location in the UK or Ireland, and why? And I'm going to start with Joe.
Wow, okay. So I haven't really travelled much to Ireland. I've kind of been to Dublin and Galway on the other side, so probably have to discount that. But from a UK point of view, I love Cornwall and Devon. So Salcombe, there's a really nice little place down by the beach. My dad actually got married there a few years ago. So yeah, I love it down there. It's kind of, they've got some really nice shops and really nice bars and restaurants, and it just has a kind of generally nice feel. And if you get a good day with the sunshine or a good week, then it's just perfect. And just feel like you're kind of on the Costa del Sol or kind of the south of France. So yeah, I'd probably say Salcombe. If we had to pinpoint one place.
Fantastic. I was there last year, actually. We did Devon last year, and so I have a bottle of Salcombe gin at home.
That's another plus point.
It is indeed. And the tasters were interesting because I think it was neat gin. But I wasn't driving after that, but it was really, really good. Oh, so that's lovely. Thank you. And Donna?
Well, unfortunately, I haven't travelled the UK very much. I'm very much a 3 times a year kind of go abroad holidays. So I haven't been across the UK too much, but I do love going to Newquay a lot. So I've been there quite a bit with my mum and also with my son Marcus. But some of this, I love city breaks if I'm going to do anything. So I love Edinburgh, really love Edinburgh. So much to see and do there. And also Bristol as well. Bristol's also a really good city break that I've been doing with family, sisters, friends, and that kind of thing. So, for me, I would always choose a city break over, unfortunately, a beach holiday in the UK for me.
Oh wow! Oh, thank you. Yeah, I do love Edinburgh myself, and I had some good days and evenings up in Edinburgh. So that's nice. Well, thank you both for that. And moving on to our main topic of conversation. As we're making our tentative steps, if you like, hopefully out of the pandemic. The events industry has been hit extremely hard over the past 15 months due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And, whilst we hear a lot in the media about the hospitality industry, in my opinion, the events industry seems to have been forgotten. And despite it being, for me, an extremely important part of the economic health of both the UK and Ireland. Our user group generally runs 50 to 60 face-to-face events each year, and we had to cancel 50 of them in 2020 from March until the remainder of the year. Now, this had an impact on our organisation, but I can imagine that's only a scratch on the surface of how it must have affected you both. So just starting from a venue perspective, I guess you had to close your doors last March, Donna. And how hard has it hit venues and the events industry?
Oh, honestly, the impact to the industry and certainly to the organisations like ourselves with a number of venues in the Midlands, it's been significant. No key event activity has taken place since the middle of March 2020. So we've literally closed those doors and held kind of no events. So we've had no event activity. So it's just been such a challenging time for us to do hustle and bustle of the venues. It's busy, it's vibrant, missing all of that. So you walk into the venues now and there's just nothing going on. And it's soul destroying. It's soul destroying for us as people that work and love and breathe in venues day in, day out. So the impact on our business has been significant, but equally I agree. In terms of the event industry, I do feel as though it has been a forgotten industry, and it's only recently been highlighted within government press releases and various things. So for us, being closed for the last sort of 12, it will be 18 months until we really start hosting live event activity again. It's been a long time.
Oh, that's good. I mean, obviously, it's nice to see those positive steps coming forward, and everything hopefully starting to pick up again there. And Joe, from managing events is a big part of your business as well. And how has it affected you?
So definitely kind of agree with everything that Donna said as well, from a venue point of view, but also kind of as an agency, similar again to what Donna said. We all live and breathe events, and it's why we do what we do. It's why we do the late nights and the long hours and everything. It's all about having those relationships and connections. So it has been a kind of personal impact as well. The pandemic has obviously just been unlike anything the industry has dealt with before, the same with the world, and every single individual across the world has been impacted by it. So there's obviously been a massive, massive impact on the industry itself. There have been so many cancelled or even postponed events, and multiple times. When we started back in March, we had a few cancellations, and it was kind of a bit, well, we don't know what's going to happen, so let's just postpone until September. And then obviously we kind of came out of lockdown a little bit, it got hit again, that was then postponed till December. So it's just been kind of a knock-on effect of having all of these postponements and cancellations of these live events, like including major global events. So the Olympics that was due to take place in Tokyo, I think that was postponed for the first time since their modern inception. The Euros 2020, or music concerts and everything. So obviously all of that impact of the industry itself also had an impact on people. Lots of furlough was happening across the events industry. A lot of redundancies. Hundreds of thousands of jobs were lost. Events industry companies were lost as well. So it's just been a massive impact, and nobody could have foreseen it happening. There's been a massive shift towards virtual and hybrid events, and we can see that kind of in our personal lives as well. The amount of video calls I now have with family and friends, and the amount of Zoom quizzes that everybody was doing at the beginning, with all of those platforms out there, that's also been kind of the fruition into the events industry itself. So it's just affected every single person, and it's not just event agencies and venues. It filters down. It's the hospitality, the AV crews, all of the event staff, freelancers, musicians, designers. It's just kind of a massive effect across the whole industry itself, and all the people involved in that. Like you both said, we are seeing a kind of way out now, and everybody I know is desperate to get back out there with face-to-face events. People have missed the interaction, the fun, and kind of generally being with people. And I think that's the bit that was taken away. It's that kind of, everybody, like, we're social animals. We like being sociable in our personal lives. And the events industry is just that. It's having that interaction and the relationship. So it's just been a massive suffer for the events industry, but also those corporates and those companies who do use live events to increase sales and increase relationships and connections. it kind of spirals across, all different industries as well. So yeah, it's been a very tough kind of 18 months across the industry. But then, there's positives. The downtime for people hasn't been wasted. So there have been people upskilling on kind of virtual platforms and virtual technology. People and companies have invested in improving their processes and organisation itself. So there has been a small kind of silver lining. But in general, yeah, obviously there's been a very kind of unturbulent time in the last 18 months.
I would also agree, actually, Joe, with that in terms of, there has been some positives that's come out of this. And I think that whole work-life balance and flexible working is really, in our business, for every single client that I talk to, they are really now looking at that work-life balance, being better for their employees, flexible working, flexible hours, flexible days in the office to help with that work-life balance. And I do think that has given us all time to pause a little bit as well. And, like you say, we do work in this industry because we love it, and we work really long, hard hours because we love it. But equally, we do need to think about that time with our families now and as well, and think about those, I'd be in the office at 7 a.m. and be home at, 7 o'clock at night, have some tea, put the laptop on, I'd be working again in the evening. And that's just the nature of my job and the nature of what I do and what time I want to invest in my business and, the place I work and love. But equally now, I'm kind of got much better work-life balance of being able to, do things for myself. I go to the gym more, see my friends more, stay at home a bit more as well. So, I'd agree, Joe, there has been some of those positive things come out of it as well.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I can definitely say I've become one with nature through regular walking. I mean, the weather was a lot better last year than it was this year. I just can't imagine what lockdown might have been like last year if the weather was as bad as April and May this year. Sure.
Yeah. I think just to add to that as well, because people have got that better work-life balance now and haven't been going to the office and, doing that kind of dreaded commute every morning and every evening. I think when we kind of come out of this, the attendance of events is going to be higher than we've seen before, because people are going to be desperate to get out there. They're desperate to get back to some kind of normal and interaction. And, a lot of the large corporates aren't now going to be having permanent offices. A lot of the big clients that we work with are kind of getting out of the office environment and going to that working from home kind of situation. So I think people are going to be desperate to get that social interaction. So I think that maybe not this year, towards the end of this year maybe, and the beginning of next year, I think we are going to see a spike in attendance as well as the number of events that take place.
I do agree with that as well, and I think we're having a conversation in another podcast where we've talked about mental health and coming out of the pandemic, and there's certainly two camps when we surveyed our members, those that are busting to get out there and meet with people. I'm certainly in that camp, and then you've got the other camp where perhaps a little bit nervous. Are we moving too quickly, or just tentative steps to come out? And coming out of that social interaction, we were talking about perhaps there's going to be a hugging etiquette where we just need to is this person open or closed, or how do we do this? How do we go forward? Those tentative steps when we first get back together, and that is going to be certainly interesting. But like you both said, the positive strides we've seen going, and there's been a number of pilot events going on over the period leading up to now, and I know there's a report being written as such. But how is it all looking at the moment? Is it looking positive, Joe, from those pilot events?
Yeah, it is actually. There were 9 pilot events being run, including the Change Business for Good event, which was the government-backed research event, the matches at Wembley Stadium and the World Snooker Championships. And there were around 60,000 people that attended those events combined, and only 15 people were kind of tested positive for COVID-19 after those events. So during these pilot events as well, people attending those events were encouraged to not socially distance, not to wear masks, to hug each other, to shake hands. So to actually kind of have it as an event would be. So to get those results of 15 people out of 60,000 is pretty good, really. And that obviously combined with the vaccination program and the progress of that, the zero death rate that was in the news this week, the hospitality industry opening up, the travel industry opening up, it is starting to kind of make waves of becoming kind of, a bit more back to normal. At the Change for Good event as well, they not only kind of tested people, they also kind of measured the airflow in the venue. They kind of measured kind of like stagnant pockets of air where kind of COVID could be harboured. So it wasn't just the measurement of the people data, it was also the measurement of, areas within a venue that could kind of potentially, harbour the virus. So combined with those two things, I think, the positive outlook is looking good at the moment. We're obviously being kind of cautious and conservative, but the progress is being made. So a lot of our clients are looking at events bookings. So we've already had a few bookings for kind of June, so the end of June. And then from September onwards this year is kind of when things are looking to start kind of ramping up. September is going to be pretty busy because everybody, like I said when we were talking in the previous point, everyone's desperate to get out there. So there was a recent study done by CNIT magazine, and 58% of event companies surveyed said that they'd expect large-scale events to return by the second half of this year, and 39% by early 2022. So obviously kind of, that's, near enough 100% of people are kind of thinking that large events will return by kind of, spring next year. So the results are looking good at the moment. I know there's this third wave that everyone's kind of anticipating in the other variant. But all of the data that's been collected so far is looking like it's going to be a good kind of path out of things. All of the reports that are being done from the pilot events are going to be fed into the Prime Minister and his team, and then we're not going to know the results of that report until the next kind of announcement, which is looking like to be, towards the end of June. So we don't know yet, but in terms of what's happening, the kind of path's looking good. So
let's call it a third ripple. I don't like this third wave business. I'm not mainstream media.
Yeah.
I just think it's a slight little ripple. Someone's dropped a tiny stone in the pond. That's it. That's
We've had
all
the
that
wave.
is.
We're done with waves.
Yeah. But that's amazing. 15 out of 60,000 is absolutely incredible in my view. And, that positivity, I was talking to our team as well, and we were looking at, how our calendar's looking. And, my view is that what first thing on people's agenda is probably going to be holiday. And then after the summer holidays, I think September, like you mentioned, is going to be a very, very busy period for us all in driving forward with our events and with your events and your venue. And Joe, how is it? Sorry, Donna, how is it looking from the venue perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it is positive. It's still kind of, we view it as a bit more of that whole cautious optimism and just being cautious around obviously the date lines and that coming forward. But we had people attend the pilot event. So two of our team attended. So two of our senior account managers attended the pilot event, and also our general manager for our convention team as well. But again, they didn't wear masks. The two of them that attended on the floor and walking around. People were hugging each other. People were behaving in a normal way. It was a little bit at first kind of like, do you want to hug, don't you want to hug, a little bit like that. And then the next thing is it's like everyone was just kind of hugging, shaking hands, greeting each other. And they said it was absolutely brilliant to be back face-to-face with so many of the, industry colleagues and having face-to-face conversations again. So they were really, really pleased. And they loved it. They loved it. They come back full of the joys of spring, and it was all about
amazing.
it. We were all a little bit jealous that we couldn't go because obviously they're all from the north, so they could attend the event. So, but yeah, definitely positive vibes that we're hearing and seeing from obviously all of our venue associations that we work very, very closely with. So, yeah.
Oh, brilliant. I mean, I think it's going to be, isn't it? Eye contact, nod, hug. Or, eye contact, shake head, okay, hi. It's very interesting. But that's it. And are you seeing, you mentioned earlier, Donna, about the bookings that you've been seeing coming through. Is that building back for you now?
Oh, yes, definitely. Our inquiry levels have increased month on month. So we were receiving sort of 600-700 inquiries in my team alone per month, and we went down to receiving none. And January this year, they started slowly coming back. And month on month, they've doubled and increased. So we're around about 200 inquiries a month now. We have new bookings that we've taken for an event in June for 600 people at the ICC. We have taken new bookings for September, October and November for large-scale events for up to 2,500 people. And also smaller bookings as well across the box for sort of 300-400 people. So, it's very bright, very positive. The diaries are insanely busy from September onwards. I think we're all in the same boat, and Joe will agree. Speaking to our agencies and our suppliers, everybody's saying from September onwards, it is going to be brilliant, like really busy, really, infectious in terms of the event industry coming back with a boom. I don't know if it will be quite a big boom as what people are thinking or hoping it will be, because obviously there is still that kind of cautious side for some of our customers who have events booked in the autumn period and who are probably a little bit more cautious and a bit more worried about this kind of ripple effect, and also with the variants and various things. And it's all waiting on the next government announcement. When we get that next government announcement, we will know if there's any more restrictions in place, and then we can discuss more things with customers. But we are being very open with our customers about what the restrictions might look like. We're being very honest with them and keeping up to speed with all of the information that we have.
Yeah, I was talking to an economist a couple of weeks ago, and he was calling it a bounce back rather than a boom. So it is a bounce back, and we will go forward from there. So I think that's really positive. And you mentioned that cautious optimism, Donna, and obviously there's still going to be measures that we still need to take to ensure that we're delivering events safely for everyone, delegates, exhibitors, speakers, etc. And from a venue perspective, what safeguards do you have in place currently and are looking at for events for the future?
The UK and Ireland SAP User Group is a not-for-profit membership organisation designed to help you to get the very best out of your SAP investments and make your job easier. Our focus is bringing the whole SAP community together so our members can learn, network and collaborate to improve their organisation, providing an independent channel through which to influence SAP. For more information and a special offer for our podcast listeners, please visit sapusers.org/pod or email support@sapusers.org. Enjoy the rest of the pod.
Yeah, so we have very, very quickly have been updating our customers, our organisers, delegates, visitors, because we have so many different people coming through our venues. So we've created something called Venue Protect. We've got it advertised across all of our websites. There's documents that we can send to our customers, to visitors, and they can download them themselves as well. There's kind of key principles to this. It's around supporting the track and trace, so collaborative working together with our organisers around pre-registered attendees, possible temperature screening, and ensuring that people are using track and trace when they enter the venue. Also social distancing measures, so ensuring that the rooms and the foyer layouts are completed to safety standards. One-way systems across the venue and walkways, ensuring our staff are wearing PPE, and also ensuring that masks are worn any time in the venue if that's still a guidance that's in place in the future. Barriers where appropriate to help keep social distancing and help with queuing and things like that with our delegates arriving, also with our staff. as well. Things like enhanced venue cleaning and sanitisation. So we've undertaken extensive event space cleaning, high touch points areas throughout your event taking place. So like key posts and door handles, switches, lifts, handrails, things like that. Washroom attendance, so ensuring that there's washroom attendants there, and so when people have come in, the bathrooms are cleaned quickly and efficiently. Hand sanitizer and hand sanitizer stations as well. So throughout the venue, there's lots of hand sanitizer stations now. People can go and clean their hands whenever they want. And also, all of our AV equipment will be sanitised as well. So you guys know when you're coming on site that everything's clean. Some of the other things as well, as we open up the business, we have lots of information for our customers around risk assessments and help and support and guidance with all of that. And also, so one of the things that we've been doing is looking at our reopening the business, and we have now got risk assessments and guidelines ready for organisers and also visitors as well, and ensuring that's all on our website so it's easily downloadable for our customers to use, and supporting our customers. But in terms of the collaborative working with our clients, for us it's all around those 4 key steps: supporting test and trace, social distancing measures, enhanced venue cleaning, and communicating to our clients to ensure that they feel that they're safe in the venue and their delegates will feel safe within our venue, with all of the steps that we're taking as a company to make sure that you guys are always safe.
I think communication, as you mentioned there, is a crucial aspect to all of this and to everything. And, lots of safeguarding measures in there. I'm just looking forward to when they open nightclubs again. Not to go, I'm too old for that now, but more akin to once nightclubs open, I think everything else will be plain sailing. Because if they're going to open nightclubs, then everybody's just going to be let back at it. So let's keep our fingers crossed that will happen sooner rather than later. But so, Joe, obviously, Donna's talking about all of the different suppliers and work with them. And I assume it's the same from your perspective, working with your clients and suppliers for the events?
So it's really good to hear that like the NEC group have got the risk assessments readily available for clients and agencies, because that's really going to help us with our safeguarding and processing as well. So from a kind of event management point of view, I've kind of put it down into 5 areas. So the first one is due diligence. So we need to make sure that we're due diligent from the brief stage. So whereas before we would get an inquiry in from a client and we'd go out to suppliers and do kind of like the normal kind of health and safety checks, obviously that's going to change now, because we need to make sure that all of our venues, all of our suppliers, restaurants, nightclubs, should we kind of get to that stage, they do have a policy and a protocol covering all of those things that Donna mentioned, because we wouldn't want to take any of our delegates or attendees to somewhere that weren't serious about kind of having this due diligence. We'd also obviously educate all of our event managers on the safety procedures and make sure that they're due diligent as well. And we would always work with the venue and other event providers on their wisdom and experience as well, because that's going to be invaluable to what we do. You guys at the NEC group and all of the venues know your venue inside out and how you can make that safe. So we're kind of like looking for venues to be able to take the lead on that, but also not just having a policy, but understanding it and living it. It's all very well having a policy written down in a document. We want to make sure that the venues and the companies that we're working with actually do follow those procedures. So we'll be kind of checking that and being diligent on that as well. The second point, again, similar to what Donna said, assessing and reducing the risk. So for all of our events, we'll always have a risk assessment, but again, that's going to be very different now, with kind of making sure that everywhere's COVID secure and considering the risks that are within our control. Obviously, whatever event we do, there are so many risks and things that can happen, but we can only manage what we can manage. And as long as we're doing that 100% and keeping our delegates and attendees safe, then we're kind of doing our job. And also reducing the risk. So can we evaluate if there are opportunities in different ways that we can do things to reduce risk? So kind of networking events, intelligent catering. So again, working with the venues on how we can, step away from your buffets and that kind of thing. AV safeguards. So again, like Donna said, making sure that there are designated mics for each of the speakers and the presenters, whereas before they may have been shared. Maybe not having a lectern, because people would stand on a lectern and obviously speak into the same microphone. So kind of assessing and also reducing the risks that we can possibly do as well is the second step. And the third one, similarly, which I'm glad that it flows in quite nicely, is communication. So changing delegate behaviour obviously is going to take time for it to become a habit. So it's up to us as the organisers to encourage and help the delegates. Otherwise, all of the hard work that venues and we're putting in place to make sure that an event is safe is going to be of little value, because if the delegates don't understand or they don't know what they're supposed to be doing when they arrive on site, then all of our hard work's gone. So we need to make sure that the communication is, and be clear on what we want them to do if we want their behaviour to change. So not only when they're on site, all of the pre-communications and making sure they're involved in what protocols and safeguards we're actually putting in place in the event. Making sure that we're outlining the precautions being taken. So if someone is feeling unwell and they've got COVID symptoms, then don't come to the event. Be sensible, washing their hands often, using the hand sanitizer. So making sure that we communicate readily with all of our delegates and staff and suppliers. Fourth one will be staying up to date. So obviously following precautions and monitoring trusted sources like the World Health Organization to make sure that we can kind of maximise the wellness of all of the attendees and our own team as well. Obviously, I don't want my team going out into a event that may kind of have may have stuff that's going to happen for us. So making sure that we're up to date with that. We also completed a COVID secure events course with a company called Brightspace. So they update us with any changes in protocols and legislation. So that's always being fed down to us. So as well as kind of going out there and finding the information, we're also getting it kind of fed through to us as well. And the final thing is embracing the change. So before the pandemic, and Craig, you'll agree with this, we were having conversations around how many people are going to attend, what the stage set's going to look like, how many people are going to come to the party. Whereas now, the pandemic has changed that, and we're looking at contingency plans and what's going to happen for the foreseeable future. So it's just the way we're thinking about events now has changed, and that's one thing that we need to make sure that we're kind of putting into our protocols. And we know that things are going to be different. Everyone keeps calling it the new different. So we need to kind of let go of any of the old thinking that we've got and the old ways that we did things. And it's just going to be a new way of doing things for us. So as long as we're keeping our attendees safe, we're delivering a successful event, our clients are happy, our attendees are happy, then I think, we're going to be doing a good job. So it's just making sure that we've got all of those 5 things kind of covered and they're at the forefront of our minds. It's not just about number of attendees coming to an event anymore. It's making sure that those attendees that do come are safe and well, and that they have a great event when they're there as well.
Yeah, and I think if there's one thing that's coming out of this from a positive aspect is those changes that we're talking about, and the different perhaps processes and how events will look in the future. Yes, I believe that they're going to be very similar, but there's going to be little nuances of changes that we put into events, and probably lots of different ways into the organisation and running of the event. But from a delegate perspective, most things will, I feel, will probably be the same, but there will be a lot more safeguards in place that perhaps will even go unnoticed in time, but it will become automatic for people organising, running the events and delivering on them. So I think it will be a more positive in that way, Joe.
Yeah, and also just on the back of that, I think, everyone has been in this together from the start. It's not like there are kind of pockets of people who are affected. We've all been in it together. We've all been living it together. So automatically now, every time you fill your car up at a petrol station, you sanitize your hands. Every time you go to the supermarket, you sanitize your hands. So it's not a new thing that we're asking people to do when they come to a venue by washing their hands and sanitizing. So it should already be kind of imprinted in their brain that that's what they need to do. So as long as we're reminding them and we're doing our job in safeguarding the venue or the event itself, and the delegates are doing their job, then it should kind of like get us on a good road out of this.
And And I'm having to moisturise my hands these days. They're that dry through the sanitizer. But you've done it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think, the same. I think people are used to now trying to manage their own risk as well, their own personal risk a lot more. Whereas I think before we probably never really thought about it like that. But I think there's, again, a lot of people that are coming to your events and stuff like that will be managing their own risk and thinking to themselves, oh, actually, I will sanitise my hands, or I will wear a mask because I want to, and that's okay. So I think there's a lot more of that will happen. And the other thing I just wanted to touch on this subject was that, as Jo had said, with her team kind of being kind of qualified or doing COVID training and various things, we've also put all of our staff through a venue protect compliance training. And also we're working very closely with the local government and health authority on the risk assessments that we get from customers. So I think there's a number of things that we're all doing that together, working together, agencies, organisers like yourself, Craig, and us as venues, we're working together coherently about keeping our delegates, staff safe. That's what it's about moving forward.
Yeah, and that's great. And for me, real positive vibes coming out of this, the industry coming back again, events coming back again, people getting out and socialising again in that, but in a safe, managed and protected way, which I think can only be positive for everybody. I know we are planning our events for the remainder of the year. We see a bit of a hybrid future. There's some of the things that we've delivered online that work better online than face-to-face, which will continue. I think we'll see a mix of face-to-face and online events, and perhaps, online and face-to-face at the same event in the future. We've got our first face-to-face ones planned for September, a couple of our special interest group meetings. And again, we're working closely with both of you and your organisations, as you were, to make sure that when we deliver our annual conference at the end of November at the ICC, it is going to be a safe space for everybody, but still deliver an exceptional experience for everybody that does attend. So just coming now to the close, time has run away with us, and thank you both so much for your time and your insights. And as I said, I think it's been really positive to me to hear from both of you on how the events industry, from a venue perspective, an event management perspective, has really taken on this role and leading the way with safety for everybody to get back to face-to-face events. So thank you very much for your time, both of you. Really appreciate it. And I hope you've enjoyed the conversation if you've been listening in. And if you'd like further information about the user group, then please do visit sapusers.org or follow us on any of the main social media platforms. So until the next time, stay safe, stay well, and as we've said today, keep washing your hands.